Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest on the cold and snowy weather we do have that is continuing through today, and at least the cold weather will remain all the way probably through the weekend as well, with the wintry showers cutting off over the course of the next 24 to 48 hours. We'll have a look at what is going on over the next few days by looking at the weather warnings and looking at the UKV, look at the precipitation and the temperature for the next 5 days, and then we'll look at the longer range, look at the GFS, GM, ECMWF and the ensembles, as it is looking likely that it's going to remain fairly cold all the way to the end of January. Beyond this weekend, high pressure is going to be building in, and the air mass may be generally mild, but at the surface we'll be seeing an inversion taking place where it'll probably be pretty decent in terms of sunshine, but it will be dry as well with that. But we will likely see a lot of frosts overnight and temperatures in the day struggling around the mid-single digits. So remaining cold, and in the longer range, as we head towards day 10 in the last few days of January, we are seeing signs from the models that they are trying to push that high pressure that's sat over the top of us for much of next week further northwards, potentially pushing an easterly or northeasterly winds, and the snow with that, and that could once again turn us even colder, back towards sort of very cold conditions, and could introduce some more wintriness as well. But that is in the extended range, and we'll just have a look at what the models are hinting at today. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure to like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. So if we do start on the live radar, you can see there are still plenty of wintry showers around at the moment. More greens on the chart as the time I'm recording this, and that's because we're sort of during the middle of the day now, and those temperatures are widely towards the low single digits, around 2, 3, 4 degrees. So some of these showers, especially to low-lying areas and coastal areas, are a bit more of a wintry mix. So not exclusively snow, perhaps a bit of growlpool, hail, and maybe even some rain and sleet mixed in there. But still, most areas inland and with any moderate elevation will be seeing snow with these showers. You can see that the main shower risk at the moment is still through northern Scotland, where there's been a lot of snow over the past 24 hours. Many areas seeing 10 to 20 centimetres of snow, perhaps even more, is lying on the ground now from showers earlier this week. And that's why we saw that amber warning issued, and we saw some very heavy snow there from that polar low. For elsewhere, you can see there's still a lot of showers into Northern Ireland, still seeing a lot of snowfall there. We saw a lot of snow there last night, and for areas of the Republic of Ireland, but a bit more marginal there, with slightly milder air mixing in. Some of these falling as more of a wintry mix. Pretty much the whole of the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, maybe apart from the far east and south, and for far western coastal areas, has seen moderate to heavy snowfall over the past 24 to 36 hours. Some areas probably don't have any lying snow, but at least saw a lot of falling snow. Some areas actually it's accumulated quite significantly. We'll have a look at the past 24-hour accumulation of snow in a minute. Through southwest England and Wales, we're still seeing a lot of showers, once again forming into little bands, and that could give quite heavy precipitation for a time, and again a bit of a wintry mix here, with slightly milder daytime temperatures. Elsewhere further eastwards is a lot drier, but it's a lot sunnier, and you can see there are some quite heavy showers in the North Sea that could skirt the eastern half of England through this evening. Don't know how far inland they'll come, but we'll have a look at what the UKV is showing. Again, these will fall as snow tonight, and again these are associated with that polar low that swept through Scotland, giving significant snowfall in places. Now, if we do look at the temperatures, as I'm calling this just before 2 p.m, you can see it is generally, again, quite a cold day, but there are some hints of some darker blues and even a bit of yellows appearing there, so temperatures around that sort of 3, 4, 5 degree mark in a few spots, so slightly milder today with slightly milder upper air temperatures, but still widely wherever you've got any snowfall on the ground and any elevation at all and any cloud or fog around, those temperatures still are hovering around freezing or just above. So still really quite cold, but not quite as cold as yesterday, and this is sort of the theme for the next few days. Now, if you put on the past 24-hour precipitation, or snowfall, sorry, you'll be able to see that it is those northern and western areas that have significantly been affected by wintry showers. You can see through the north of Scotland why we had that amber warning issued. Some of these areas have seen 10, 20 centimetres of snow plus. Through Northern Ireland and most of the Republic of Ireland again have seen snow. The far south and far east haven't seen any, but again most areas have seen at least some falling snow, where you see these darker colours and these purples. That is actually quite significant snow. And then again, you can see through northwest England and Wales some of these banding areas. We saw some darker blues again, showing where we saw some heavier snow down in the southwest as well. And you can see some of these showers did drift inland, and a few for the East Anglia. So we saw quite a bit of falling snow through the Midlands, perhaps into the southwest and parts of southern and western parts. Saw a lot of falling snow, but again, it's touch and go whether we saw any accumulations. Really only in the heaviest bands did we see any significant accumulations with that. But you can see, again, from a north to northwesterly flow, the typical areas saw the winteriness. Again, if this was a northeasterly or easterly flow, you'd expect this to be replicated on the eastern side. And just so far this winter, pretty much all our cold air has come from sort of a northerly direction. So some areas have sort of, especially inland areas, haven't seen a lot of snow at all. And I know some people are probably inland through central England, really wanting a bit of precipitation and some snow, but we haven't seen anything so far. But perhaps as we head through the end of January into February, it is looking likely to still have quite a few opportunities for any winteriness, as it's going to rain very cold, quite likely in places, and we could be seeing some significantly cold weather through February, as we could have a sudden stratospheric warming coming. Again, check out the video posted yesterday on that, as we could see that develop through the next few weeks, giving us an above average chance of a colder, or at least colder periods through February. If we do look at the weather warnings now, you can see we still have widespread snow and ice warnings issued for northern and eastern areas. For the southwest, we've got this ice warning from 5 p.m. this evening until 10 a.m. tomorrow. Again, just where we have some wintry showers around still, and just general water and ice on surfaces. It will freeze once again tonight and could cause some icy stretches tomorrow morning. Snow and ice warning issued for Northern Ireland, northwest England, parts of Wales, or most of Wales really, and southern and western Scotland, again from midday today till midday tomorrow. Again, just for those general wintry showers, and again could see 2 to 5 centimetres. Not quite as heavy as last night's showers, but once again could see some more accumulations, especially as the sun sets and those temperatures do drop. High likelihood, lower end of the impact matrix. And again, snow and ice warnings for northern and western Scotland. Again, could see 1 to 3 centimetres of snowfall, further wintry showers, again from 9 a.m. today until midday tomorrow, and again could see 5 to 10 centimetres over higher ground. So again, could see some more issues for snowfall. But I think the most significant risks from the snow have now passed, with the amber warning yesterday and those widespread wintry shower warnings yesterday as well. I do think that yes, we will see more snow showers, but the most significant snowfall has now passed, and it will be trending cold still, but quite a bit drier. And tomorrow you can just see those continuation of those warnings. None are issued for the sort of the second half of Thursday into Friday and Saturday. Now, if you look at the UKV and have a look what's happening with the precipitation and the temperature over the course of the next 5 days, you'll be able to see it does go drier, but it remains pretty cold, especially in eastern areas. As we head through this morning, you can see all those wintry showers further inland as well, but they have petered out through today and around 3 p.m. this afternoon. You can see still a lot of wintry showers, especially through Scotland, Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, Wales and southwest England, but lighter and not quite as widespread. Still a clump through Scotland, but again, that's pretty typical for this sort of flow. Through this evening, those showers will pep up in places, but once again, not expecting it to be as significant as last night in terms of shower activity, and it will continue overnight into tomorrow. Weather fronts try to approach from the southwest, and that's the first attempt from the Atlantic to break down the cold air, but it doesn't quite have too much, it just doesn't quite get have any success really, and we could see a bit of winteriness actually through southern parts of Ireland, but it'll be a bit marginal with that milder air pushing in. Through Thursday, it's actually quite a widely cold but dry day, with those showers getting cut off as higher pressure does start to build in. The isobars do spread out and we see less showers, but it could start to turn a little bit milder from the west, with milder air masses just trying to nudge in. Into Friday, you could see another weather front has a go in the far west through parts of the Republic of Ireland, maybe southwest England. Again, getting slightly further eastwards, and again, just introducing a bit of milder air, but nothing too much more with that. And most areas are actually bone dry and sunny through Friday, but once again, cold through central and eastern areas. As we head into Saturday, another weather front has another go at pushing in, and again doesn't get much further than parts of Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, and Western Scotland. Areas to the east of that cloud and that weather front will remain cold through Saturday. And that continues into Sunday. Another weather front has another go at pushing in, but it's just getting squeezed by that higher pressure. And you can see the cold air is remaining just in that far eastern and southern portion. Still cool elsewhere, average conditions, but below average and quite cold still in that far east before that cloud and rain eventually does spread through, but by the time it does, it's so moderated that generally upper air temperatures will be pretty average for the time of year. And then once the high pressure starts to build in, we'll likely see an inversion through next week. You can see that with the upper air temperatures. We just hang on to that slightly colder air in the far southeast, milder air pushing into parts of Northern Ireland, the Republic of Ireland. But look at the mean sea level pressure. Higher pressure is starting to build in the southeast, and that is just going to extend northwards, and we'll likely see an inversion start to build under that, where the upper air temperatures might be generally average or above average, but to the surface, it's quite cold. If you look at the max temperatures, though, you can see this afternoon temperatures widely around the 1, 2, or 3 degrees. We have snow on the ground, but elsewhere around 4 or 5, so slightly milder today. Overnight temperatures will plummet to pretty much widely below freezing for all areas, and into Thursday afternoon, you can see those temperatures once again, maybe 2, 3, 4 degrees, actually slightly colder than today, but really only by a degree or so. As we head into Friday, you can see the early hours widely sort of -2 to -4, especially through central areas where we have a lack of cloud. And through Friday, you can see many areas still are around that sort of 3 to 5 degree mark. But further westwards, through parts of the Republic of Ireland and southwest England, we could see temperatures returning more towards average, around that 5 to 7 degree mark. Overnight into Saturday, again, another very cold night, widely -2 to -4. And then Saturday afternoon, again, 3 to 5 degrees through most of England, Wales, and Scotland, but parts of the southwest of England, Northern Ireland, and Republic of Ireland, getting up towards maybe 8 to 10 degrees of average or above average. But that milder air will very much struggle to push eastwards. Overnight into Sunday, still -1 to -5 through many areas in eastern England, and Sunday during the day, still 4 or 5 degrees for eastern parts, and again could see another frost into Monday. But most areas now are starting to get a bit more moderated. But as I said, once that high pressure does build in and we start to see that inversion take place, those temperatures will probably start to turn colder once again. And if we do start to pull in a bit of an easterly or northerly flow towards the end of next week, we could start to go even colder back down towards these sort of low single-digit days. So anyone hoping for any milder weather doesn't look likely, maybe apart from the far west. If you're looking for dry weather, though, it is looking quite encouraging with very little precipitation forecasted for most areas over the course of the next week or so. So, if we do now go over to the GFS and see what that is showing over the course of the next sort of 14, 15 days or so, you can see high pressure building in towards this weekend, and you can see slight southwesterly flow across parts of northern and western areas. For the south and east, higher pressure built in, and that higher pressure starts to extend itself over us as we head towards the middle of the week. And under that centre of the high, we'll likely still see pretty cold conditions, even though the upper air temperatures are relatively mild. That higher pressure in the longer range tries to nudge northwards and tries to put an easterly flow in, and it tries to push colder air in. Colder air is all in Eastern Europe now, and it tries to have a go at getting it towards the UK, but isn't quite isn't really that successful. And the westerlies try and push in, but high pressure pretty much still stays in control. So once again, staying under higher pressure, still going to be pretty cold towards the surface, with the potential of turning us very cold if we got that easterly wind. And you look to our east, bitterly cold air is sat through most of Eastern Europe, poised at pushing further westwards. Temperature deviation, very cold to our east. And again, just the raw upper air temperatures, very cold conditions. And for the UK, we're average or slightly below average under that higher pressure. Again, you can see earlier in the run, under the higher pressure, we are still in sort of average or above average air masses for a lot of the time. But, as I said, an inversion taking place will mean those surface conditions are quite cold. And you can see that well on the ensembles at the end of the video, where very few are getting much above sort of 5 to 7 degrees, which is sort of average for this time of year. If we do go over to the GEM, see how that does compare over the course of the next 10 days. Again, high pressure building in towards this weekend, trying to push an easterly flow in, and it does it to a certain extent towards the middle of next week. Maybe for the far southeast, but nothing substantially cold, just a chilly continental flow. But as we're towards day 10, that high pressure really tries to get going towards Greenland. It's not too successful. It does pull quite a cold air mass in for a time, but it's not too successful and doesn't turn us wintry really with us still under higher pressure. If you look at the upper air temperatures, very cold air is spreading into northern and western Europe, and for the eastern half of the British Isles, we're pretty much in that very cold air. You look at the temperature deviation plunging a lot colder. So again here, we go slightly milder with the upper air temperatures, but likely see the inversion under that during the middle of next week before it plunges us colder once again as that high pressure tries to retrogress up towards Greenland and pull in a northerly wind. So yeah, both the GFS and the GM are, yes, not ridiculously cold, not ridiculously snowy, but they're pretty much average or below average for the whole run, and the GM is showing potentially very cold conditions at day 10. Now, if we do compare it to the ECMWF, again, a high pressure building in towards this weekend, trying to pull in an easterly flow. High pressure struggles to take control initially, but eventually it does take control as we head towards the middle of next week. And again, it tries to move up towards Greenland and tries to pull a bit of a northerly flow in there, but the majority of that cold air does spread into Scandinavia and further eastwards, and it might just clip the far east. But regardless, we're in pretty cold air mass under higher pressure, likely to be cold towards the surface, just not very cold. So all three runs are showing high pressure being in control, very little precipitation coming for many over the course of the next week to 10 days, and potentially remaining quite cold under the higher pressure, and maybe very cold if we start to pull in either a northerly or easterly as we head towards the end of next week. So the last few days of January could turn us very cold once again. There are hints from the models, but nothing substantial at this stage. And as we'll see in the ensembles in a minute, there is a split, but the majority are at least a little bit below average, keeping us on the cold side. So if we do finish the video by having a look at the ensembles, if we do start on the GFS ensembles, you can see it's cold for the next 3 or 4 days, especially with London being in the southeast. We're going to hang on to that cold air for another 4 or 5 days here, with those upper air temperatures only really rising towards sort of Sunday, Monday time. And yes, they go slightly above average, but nothing ridiculously mild. And under higher pressure, we're still likely to see generally cold conditions towards the surface. In the longer range, most of the upper air temperatures into the last sort of 5 days of January are average or below average, and the GFS operational one's actually on sort of the milder end of the ensemble range. And you can see there's maybe a quarter, maybe even a third of ensemble members that get us down to that -5 area, or some getting us down to even the -10 area, which is bitterly cold air, which would give temperatures hardly above freezing in the day. So yeah, in the longer range, it does look likely it's going to be colder than average, and there could be some substantially cold conditions there as well. Now, the one thing is, you can look at the precipitation, very little spikes appearing after a very wet and windy last few weeks. It's looking likely to be pretty dry, with quite low winds as well, so much more seasonal, frosty and potentially foggy weather, and staying quite cold over the course of the next week or two. Now you can see again on the sea level pressure, generally higher pressure is building in over the course of the next couple of weeks. So you can see on the mean sea level pressure, generally we are higher pressure for the foreseeable future, keeping us quite dry, and again, inversion taking place, quite cold. And you can see the dew points, again, emphasise the air mass we're under. Cold the next 5 days, rise to maybe 1, 2, 3 degrees for a couple of days early next week, and then get down back towards freeze again, indicating quite cold air will be in control. And look at the 2-metre temperatures, you can see the ensemble average is hardly getting above sort of 5 or 6 degrees over the course of the next 2 weeks or so. Hardly above 2 or 3 degrees the next few days, maybe 5, 6, 7 degrees, which is average, maybe slightly below, slightly above in places for a couple of days, and then back down to maybe 5 degrees in the longer range. Again, there is ensemble spread. The mildest one's getting up to 10 degrees, the coldest one's only 2 or 3, so it will be somewhere in that range, but the majority are around that 5 or 6 degree mark, which is average to maybe slightly below average over the course of the next 2 weeks, and there's no real sign of anything majorly milder, only signs of it being relatively cold and potentially very cold if we did pull in that northerly or easterly wind. Now, if you compare it to the ECMWF ensembles, because of course you need cross-model consensus, you can see cold for the next 4 or 5 days, maybe rising slightly faster than the GFS ensemble members do, and then generally just above average for maybe 2 or 3 days next week, and then back towards average, maybe slightly below average, not too much of a deviation there. But again, some very cold runs appearing once again, indicating there is the potential for some very cold conditions towards the end of the month. Precipitation stays very low, again indicating higher pressure is in control. And again, if we look at the 2-metre temperatures over the course of the next couple of weeks, it again remains pretty chilly. Over the next few days, hardly above sort of 2, 3, 4 degrees. Towards the weekend and early next week, maybe 5, 6, 7, or maybe slightly higher in a few spots. And then as we head beyond that, majority around that 5 or 6 degree mark, which is average, maybe slightly below average in certain areas. So it is remaining fairly cool over the next few weeks. Not bitterly cold by any means, slightly milder than the last few days have been, but we're not looking likely to head back towards that mild, wet and windy weather we've had from the west, and it could keep the second half of January pretty cold indeed. And yes, for at least for the next sort of 5 days, we do look likely to see very little precipitation in most areas. But as we head towards the end of next week, there is the potential for more northerly or maybe even easterly winds to be coming back in, which again could introduce even colder air and perhaps precipitation in the form of more heavy wintry showers once again. So yeah, it does look like it's going to be proper sort of wintry conditions over the course of the next couple of weeks. Again, no snow around, probably beyond maybe Thursday, Friday time, but it is going to remain cold and seasonable. And I know some people won't enjoy it being cold, but at least it will be dry and we'll get away from all this wet and windy weather, at least for a time. And it'll let some areas, which are very saturated ground, for it to dry out a little bit. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure you stay safe out there. It's going to be cold. It's going to be very icy over the next few days, with overnight temperatures dropping well below freezing for many areas. So make sure you stay safe out there. I'll see you again for another video soon.